There are brand new laws being introduced that are, and I know people are going to freak out when I say this, they're racist to white people. Now, when anyone suggests that anything in the world is racist towards white people, people start to panic, all right? They start to freak out. They start to get defensive. In the same vein as if you said, oh, that's sexist towards men. People say you can't be sexist towards men. You can't be racist towards white people. You can only ever be racist or sexist to the people that are oppressed. But I don't know. I don't think I've ever oppressed anyone in my life. So I think that's a little bit of a demeaning terminology, don't you agree? I might be crazy, but I think the world would be a nicer place if we just agreed, hey, we're not going to be racist towards anyone, including white people. Doesn't that just sound nice? And now that we've got all that bullshit out of the way, please join me on an amazing journey to an Orwellian state in Australia known as Victoria. A part of the world where the people love being controlled by the government. They love being told what to do, particularly the capital of Victoria, Melbourne. In that city area, it is California on steroids, mate. They have all been coerced into a little cult. It is the thought crime capital of at least the Southern Hemisphere. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the state of Victoria, where the blue hairs run wild, female razors are impossible to find, and Ukraine flags, Palestinian flags, and they, them pronouns float proudly above the city. So what is this new law that has been passed by these absolute fuckwit, left-leaning, fucking thrift shopping fuckheads? Okay, that was not in the script, but it's fucking spot on. What is this new law passed by these authoritarian twats? Okay, so the Allen government, the Allen being, I think, what's her name, Jacinta or something like that. She's the governor. She is the premier of Victoria here in Australia. Has taken a big step in strengthening its anti-vilification and social cohesion laws. Cohesive. You know, if anyone uses the word cohesive, you know they're a fuckwit. Laws by enacting landmark legislation this week in Parliament. Apparently it was passed, this law was passed at 2 a.m. in the morning. And usually things that are passed under the cover of darkness are positive for everybody involved. Now, these laws don't really affect everybody negatively. They only affect people who think that freedom of speech and freedom of thought and freedom of expression is a good thing. If that's not you, then you don't even need to watch this video. It's not important. But if that is you, then this is very fucking important. These laws, these reforms, they all have to do with protecting people that the government says we need to protect, which must be a very weird thing, being one of those groups. Now, I understand if you're a very small group and maybe you're being targeted, but these groups that apparently need protecting are quite large in number. In fact, women are one of them. To put it bluntly, the government of Victoria is saying that everyone who is not a white person needs protecting. Because it goes into detail, the people that need protecting, it's all to do with race and religion. I imagine Christianity is not one of those religions. Disabilities, sexual preference, gender identity, people of color. If you are any of those things, then you need to be protected by the government. Any one of those, and even anyone who associates with a person who has a protected attribute. Now, credit where credit's due. It's good to protect people and look after people from actual hateful things, but that's not what this law does. Well, at least in part, that's not what this law does. Because right here, this is very, very good, okay? There will be harsher penalties, including jail time, for those who threaten physical harm or damage property. If you're damaging someone's property or threatening them physically because they're a black person or a gay person or a trans person, then you're a piece of shit and you deserve extreme laws like this to fucking make you pull your fucking head in. But the law continues from there. It also considers it an offence to, quote, incite hatred and serious contempt, which also, in theory, sounds nice. But what does incite hatred mean? Because by that definition, and this is always the problem with these new laws, particularly about speech, is they are so open to interpretation and there is no definitive definition right there for people to look at. And that makes it very difficult for anyone who votes yes to these laws to know what they're actually voting for. The problem with the terminology inciting hatred is that, well, some of the worst people in history have incited hatred. But also, I've been accused of inciting hatred when I said that men can't get pregnant. This is the problem. These definitions are so wide. But here is the big problem, and the reason I've made this video. It will constitute an offense to incite hatred in serious contempt, revulsion, or, are you ready for this? Severe ridicule. You could go to prison for up to 5-6 years for severe ridicule. That is a direct attack on freedom of speech in this country. I'm sorry to anyone out there who feels like they have been ridiculed or severely ridiculed because of the way they look, their religion, where they're from, where their parents are from, but you should not be protected to the point where someone will be locked in a cage because they ridicule you. That's not the world we live in, mate. That's not nice that that happens to you. But that's reality. And you shouldn't have protection against someone else's words to that extent. That is crazy. And particularly for me as a comedian, what does that mean for comedy in Victoria? The Melbourne Comedy Festival, the biggest comedy festival of the Southern Hemisphere, probably second or third in the world after the Edinburgh Fringe Festival and the Montreal Comedy Festival. Where does that leave comedy in Australia, in Melbourne, in Victoria for that festival particularly? Does that mean that next year there will be no jokes about anyone who is gay, trans, lesbian, bi, black, brown, fucking anything other than white? And you can only make jokes about white dudes. I mean, for fuck's sake, women are on this list. It's only white dudes. And it's not like you're getting a fine for making these jokes or these severe ridicule. You might go to jail. That's madness. Take, for example, the human rights case brought against me by the Human Rights Commission of Queensland. That was over an Aboriginal joke 2 years ago, if you weren't paying attention. What would happen to me if I went to court in Victoria over something like that? Would I go to jail? Maybe there are parts of this law written in to protect people like me, you big old bigots on the internet and on the stage. But still, does that mean that someone who makes a off-color joke or a joke that someone else doesn't like, does that make them a criminal? But it doesn't stop there. My favorite part about this entire story is a clause in the law. It's nicknamed the Sam Kerr clause. Sam Kerr is a soccer player in Australia. She plays for the Matildas and she's a good player, okay? That's all you need to know who she is. She was also arrested and charged with calling a white police officer a white bastard or a stupid white bastard in the UK, which should never have happened. She is well within her rights to call someone a white bastard if she wants to. And this is the point of all this shit. The government shouldn't dictate what you can and cannot say. If you don't know who Sam Kerr is, and if you've forgotten, here's her not knowing how to carry a fucking baby. Jesus. Anyway, the clause, it's amazing, says that, and I'm paraphrasing, anyone who is a woman, a person of color, a trans person, a person with fucking psoriasis cannot be charged with this law. And because the protected classes are everyone except for fucking white dudes, the only people who can be charged with this law is fucking white blokes. That's madness. That is fucking crazy. And I'm sorry, I've been a bit sick. I'm losing my voice, but that is mad. If you're someone who genuinely cares about racism, how is that not a racist law? There shouldn't be any racist laws. None. Zero. Zip. But this is one of them. And ladies and gents, it is my melancholy duty to inform you it gets better. You can get in trouble if you break this law in your own home. For the avoidance of doubt, conduct may be public conduct, even if it occurs A, on private property or land, or B, at a place not open to the general public. On top of that, it also says on the next page, even if it occurs outside of Victoria. So everyone's just fucked. Listen, people say hateful and horrible things. And if you directly threaten someone with violence, you should absolutely be punished for that. But just because people make jokes or say mean things, you shouldn't be protected. You don't deserve protecting, okay? That is not how we operate as a society. No one should be protected from people saying mean words. That's ridiculous. And particularly for jokes. Mate, comedy in this country is fucking diabolical enough. Like if you go and you watch the Melbourne Comedy Festival, I'm sorry to say this. Fuck, there's some shit getting around. Oh, Christ. Anyway, whatever. I'm not even going to go into it. And I'd like to point this out. I very much doubt that the vast majority of people who are on that protected list want to be there. Like if you're watching this and you're part of that enormous community of everyone that's not a straight white dude who's on that list, do you want to be there? That's pity, right? That's people are looking down upon you. Fuck that. No one wants to live their life like that. Ladies and gentlemen, we need more than ever someone to stand up in this country because it's only going to go further downhill, and stand up for free speech and stand up and get it written into our fucking constitution. In America, having free speech in your constitution is massive. In Australia, we seem to be following what the UK did, what England did, and they don't give a fuck about free speech. They don't give a shit at all. Every single day in England, people are getting locked up for social media posts. Is that what we want here? Is that what's going to happen here? That's fucked. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think in the comment section down below.